Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be building some storage shelves in our laundry room that's in our basement. Right now, each tote's kind of different. We've bought them all at different times. I'm going to get one consistent tote throughout and build some nice shelves for these. This should organize it really nice and even give us some more storage space than what we have right now. So I'm going to start by just cutting everything to length. I made a rough plan so I know exactly what length these 2x4s need to be. So I'm going to cut everything out and then I can just assemble it. I don't have a plan yet that I could share, but eventually I hope to put together a build plan with some cut lists and everything so you guys can build this as well. So if I have that ready, I'll leave that down in the description of this video. If not, stay tuned and hopefully I'll get that out to you soon. Basically, the entire frame of this is made out of 2x4s and then a few sheets of plywood that I'm going to be closing it in. And then I'm also using a thin strip of this plywood to act basically as a notch to help support and hold everything together, but I'll show you that in just a minute. But I'm just ripping those down to be the width of the 2x4s, and then I'll just need to cut them to length. Now I've got everything cut to length, but now I need to notch the vertical 2x4s. This is going to be tying everything together. I'm going to notch this so that the 2x4 can rest right on top of the base frame and support all the weight. Everything's cut and I have enough pieces to make 2 of these shelves, so let's put this together and see how it goes. I'm going to start by assembling the base first, and I initially wanted to make this out of 4x4s to make it a little bit stronger, but then once you start notching that, you cut it down to close to a 2x4 thickness anyways, so you're going to lose some of that strength. So I'm just going to be using 2x4 spacers to sort of act as a 4x4 to strengthen it up a little bit, and then also give me the exact distance that I need to make these vertical pieces. This is just a simpler way of doing it instead of having to use a dado or notch the 4x4 to fit the 2x4 vertical pieces in there. I'm going to be assembling all of this using deck screws, 2.5 inch long, and that's perfect for the 2x4s. And then for the plywood that I'm going to be using as spacers in just a minute, you'll see I'm using a staple gun, and then I'm also putting some wood glue on that to hold a little bit stronger. Now I'm going to start attaching the plywood to these vertical 2x4s. This is what all the weight of the horizontal 2x4s can rest on. You don't have to just depend on the screws themselves to hold everything together. This will just give it a little bit more strength and be able to support as much weight as we want to put on this. In just a minute, you'll see I'll start building the second one, and I'll do that in a little bit of a different order that I found easier the second time around. And I'm going to be adding in some drawer slides pretty much underneath the tote, just a bar going across that the weight of the tote can rest on. That way over time the plastic doesn't warp and end up breaking because there's too much weight in it. That will support from the bottom of the tote and keep everything where it should be. All right, so here's the second one, and there's a few things I noticed that were a little bit easier. First, put the plywood on once you have those vertical pieces. This will help make sure everything's square because it's still very flexible at this point. You haven't built out all the supports tying everything together. That way you can make sure it's square and build it the right way. And then to hold the larger pieces of plywood, I'm just using 1¼ inch Torx screws. The next thing I'm doing a little bit different this time is adding on the casters a bit earlier. This way it's nice and light. I can easily flip it over, attach the wheels, and then put it back up. Adding these wheels is a bit of an extra step. You may not want them if you just want your shelves in one place and it's permanent, but the room this is going in, we're eventually going to do a little bit more work to it, finish it off, and there's also an air handler that goes over top of these shelves for our AC and heat. And if that ever needs to be serviced, it would be a pain to unload the shelves, slide everything out. This way we can just roll out the entire unit and then roll it back in when it's done. Then the last thing I'm doing a little different is, like I mentioned before, adding these drawer pulls underneath the totes as I'm working my way up so nothing gets in the way. I'm just adding these again to act as extra support for the bottom of the totes so they don't end up buckling or cracking over time if there's too much weight in them. I've got everything pretty much assembled. The last step I'm going to be doing is attaching all of the plywood on the two sides as well as the top of the shelf. We might end up stacking things on top of these shelves, so having a solid surface up there would be really nice. Now these shelves I built so that they're a little bit more than 4 feet tall, but you can extend this up a few rows if you wanted to get it up to your ceiling if you have taller ceilings. The ceiling down here in the basement's pretty low, and this is actually the height of the air handler, so we can slide this right underneath without hitting anything. So this works perfect for our space, but you could scale this however you want to. I'm going to finish up putting together this last one here, and then I'm going to show you guys what this looks like once I get all the totes filled up and the end result. But I'm loving this. It looks really nice to have all one style of tote, and each tote is labeled very clearly what's in it, so we don't have to go looking through a stack of totes and moving things around just to get what we need. Everything's ready, accessible for it, and it looks really nice as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. So here's a quick refresher of what it looked like before, and this is what we have now. So it looks really nice. We've got actually quite a bit more storage than we had before, so there are some empty totes still to be filled, so that's good. You don't ever want to end up with less space after doing a project like this, so I think it looks really nice and turned out great, but I'd love to know what you guys think as well. So let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Like I mentioned before, I don't currently have plans that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, but I'm working on putting some together, so check out the description below. When I have those ready, I'll leave a link that you guys can go download those if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.